Alright, we're back in War Thunder, and I've seen there was an update in the German tech tree. We have now Swiss aircraft as well. And this one is called the C-3603, I believe. It did really exist. It was I think an in-house development of some other aircraft called Roll Rate. She was armed with 8 50-kilogram bombs on the wings, two 20mm cannons, also wing-mounted, and I think twin 7.5mm MG. Fuselage. Behind the pilot, so let's go. This is the rear gunner. This is the pilot. Combat flaps are available. We have no air brakes. Really, with Cold War era tanks. MiG-15, are you fucking kidding me? That's no fun. Let's do the MiG. Aircraft with the bombs. There's no much cannons. But that looks like we have more than 2 cannons, doesn't it? It was just a test flight. There's no mission, no nothing. So this is the C-3604. It has 3 20mm cannons and 2 7.45mm MGs in the front and 7.5mm MG in the rear gunner position. So where does he have his MGs? Where's the X-ray? Here we go. So this is one 20mm cannon, Hispano Suiza. Here are the other twos. Where are the MGs? Oh, here. Alright. I got it. I see it. They're very well hidden, aren't they? Self-sealing fuel tanks. these ones are new as well. Oh, the Blom and Voss they have now as well. I think they didn't have that before. Let's take out this one. These wings, they're flappy, aren't they? Okay, in the front and in the back this must be the 20mm cannons, and the one behind the engine, the middle engine, that must be the 15-13mm MG they have. The bombs are on one side. That's an interesting concept. All right. But that's not what we're here. We're here for a dynamic campaign. Maybe we take Pearl Harbor or Wake Island. Let's take Wake Island. 1942. Should we go with Japan? Let's go with Japan for a change. Okay, we have the choice between the Ki-61 Hien, which if I recall correctly is an inline engine or a VE engine, or the A6M2, which has a radial engine. Let's take the Ki-61 just because it's not as famous as an airplane as the Zero, which the A6M2 is, an early version of the Zero. This one is more like, yes, I want to say like a Messerschmitt, but yeah, it's not entirely true. Are you flying against Black Widows? Are you fucking kidding me? Yes, it's the P-61 Black Widow, which was the first aircraft in the US Army, or Air Force rather, who was specifically designed to be a night interceptor. Had a big radar cone in the front, and had a turret with a quadruple 50 cal MG, but in practice, this turret was supposed to be 360 turnable. In practice, they were either arrested in a fixed position or not used at all. The problem was it caused severe aerodynamic issues, to the extent that this aircraft was unstable in flight, which is of course not a good thing to have. Which is what armament does this Ki-61 have? I thought it's a 250 case, but this looks like she packs more punch. and MGs. Here we see one of the columns with the Japanese aircraft. They were ready named very high performance, but they have almost zero survivability. No self-sealing tanks, at least the early versions. Oh, I'm missing the tip of my wing. How does it? That explains. I'm wobbling around. So I take it back to a certain extent, while my statement is still true that Japanese pilots apparently were considered to be expendable by the Japanese Air Force, judging by the aircraft they built, or have built. I think they need to bail out here. This is not sustainable. I think the Japanese called also 12.7mm guns as cannons, no less MGs. That's the thing inside. Audacity of the tail gun to still shoot at us while he should be busy bailing out. I need to check what kind of armor this aircraft has. pilot kill. We've done it. I think there also P-61s also had 4 MGs in the belly, or under the fuselage. It was designed to destroy bombers. Can take the Key 44, but I think we take the Zero out this time. Just that we have had a look at this epic legendary aircraft. She was a very high performing aircraft at the beginning of the war, which the Americans couldn't match. She's armed with 2 20mm cannons and 2 rifle caliber MGs. And the problem was the cannons had not much ammunition. I mean, these 200 shots here is already on the high end. I seem to remember that the first version only had 120 rounds for the cannons, which meant when they ran out of cannon ammunition or the cannons jammed, they're back to a pair of 7.7mm MGs. Which did not make an awful lot of an impression on any enemy plane whatsoever. Japanese pilots paid dearly for the maneuverability of this airplane, because in order to make it as quick and as nimble as she was, weight was saved. That included, but was not limited to, no self-sealing tanks and the use of wood or other lightweight material not really suitable for aircraft manufacture to save valuable resources and weight. And once the Americans started fighting back, the Zero pilots paid dearly for that agility of their aircraft, because the American 50 cal, it just punched through this aircraft. And if you look at what ammunition they used, they have incendiary rounds, and these tanks do not see. And there's no armor for the aircraft either, so this is a recipe for catastrophe. It's too heavy, I can't catch it in one dive. I can catch you in climb. As I said at the beginning of the Pacific War, these were excellent aircraft. They remained excellent aircraft per se. It was just the Americans quickly changed their tactics and avoided dogfights with Japanese aircraft because they couldn't keep up. So they were applying boom and zoom tactics, which meant they tried to get on top of their enemies, dive down, gain velocity, speed while diving down. A short burst, maybe 2-3 seconds, and regardless of the outcome, whether you killed your enemy or whether you missed, you used that speed that you gained in the dive to immediately pull up again. They had no chance of catching you because you came with superior speed and you already had a lead before them. So, I mean, On an individual basis, sure. If they had a very capable pilot and flew against rookie pilots, yeah, absolutely. If they flew against a rookie pilot, they were aces maybe. Absolutely, there's a chance. But by and large, that was the tactics the Americans started to employ, because it played to the strength of their aircraft, which were very durable, relied heavily on 50 caliber guns, which is a good compromise between firepower and ammunition supply, because as you can see, the cannons, they're dry after 100 shots each, which sounds not bad, but this is a burst of maybe 3 seconds, and then you go click, 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 right? And the 1400 shots of rifle caliber guns, they do not go far, especially with the sturdy American aircraft like the P-47 and the likes, who just shrugged it off basically. Nevertheless, very excellent aircraft. Just they had their weaknesses, and the US Navy quickly learned how to take advantage of these weaknesses. So we have another Zero, but I think we take now the Key 100. I don't know this aircraft very well. Must be a further development from the Key 61 or something of the sort. Yeah, it has a radial engine, so it's not the Key 61. Maybe the Key 84. I think the Key 84 Hayate, she was with a radial engine. Do we looks like 2 MGs on the nose, 2 on the wings, the one with the red star. Maybe these are 20 mm tanks. It's difficult to say. Is there the wing? So you see, the ammunition is 400 for the cannon, which is plenty, but only 500 for the MGs, which is, even if it's 50 caliber MGs, which the Japanese also have, it's rather on the low side. And mind you, these were aircraft which were deployed at the end of the war, where all the experienced pilots were gone from the Japanese Navy. And rookies, maybe a dozen of hours in a training aircraft or something like that. Certainly, unless they were very talented naturals, not snipers. Oh yeah, that was a direct collision. True Japanese fashion. I wish I could say I was role-playing, but I wasn't. I didn't pay attention. What's the last one? Okay. This is the experimental P-38. P-38 was also an interesting aircraft. She had 2 engines, and the engines were in booms. Booms had then the rudder and elevator stretched between them. It was a single-seater aircraft, and most notorious for shooting down Jigoro Yamamoto, admiral of the Japanese fleet. was a little bit of a gambler. His the plan of hitting the Americans in Pearl Harbor was his baby. And from what I've seen from the documentaries I've seen, he knew that in the long run, Japan cannot beat the US in a prolonged war, because they simply do not have the industrial power to outproduce the US. So as far as I understood, what he tried to achieve is destroy the Pacific Fleet of the US and bring them to the table for negotiations. It did not work out. They were not as heavily hit as the first impression showed in Pearl Harbor, and more importantly, the aircraft carriers were not there, which were the main goal of Pearl Harbor. They wanted to sink the American aircraft carrier, because that would basically cripple their ability to fight the Japanese. But they were not there when the Japanese struck. And so, despite all the soldiers who died, sailors who died that day, the US got away lightly, kind of. Of course, it's tragic for every family who lost a member. Of course, I'm not trying to downplay that, but from a strategic point of view, the most important vessels were not even in the port. And of those vessels who were hit so hard, a couple could be salvaged, and they were battle ready within months, which sounds like a lot, but for these kind of vessels, a couple of months of repair in dry dock is not as long as it sounds. Headphone ran out of juice. So yeah, so the might of the US Navy was not hit as hard as the Japanese would have liked. And instead of subduing the American population, people stormed the recruiting offices for the armed forces. Increased the US might, basically. The one thing which played against the US in the first place, but then again was a mitigating reason for them, was Pearl Harbor is already shallow, or used to be. I don't know how it is today, but back then it was a very shallow port. And this is why the Americans thought they were relatively safe, because airdrop torpedoes, they drop first a couple of meters. And when I say a couple of meters, I mean 10 to 20 meters, because of the impact with the speed they have and the weight they carry. They first go down and then level out later on in the approach to their target. The problem is, if the port is very shallow, they ram themselves into the sand and into the bottom of the sea, and they can't recover. And this is why the Americans thought they were safe from torpedo attacks in Pearl Harbor, or airborne torpedo attacks in Pearl Harbor. Also from U-boat attacks, because if the port is so shallow and the water is relatively clear, you see U-boats from miles away, right? You can spot them with the naked eye, like if you see fish in a shallow pond, right? But the Japanese were very ingenious, and they developed torpedoes which were suitable for being deployed in shallow waters, and they hit heavy on the American ships assembled in the port. But because the port was so shallow, some of the ships just went down on even keel and were not even fully submerged because the port was so shallow, so they could be salvaged quite easily. I mean, as easy as you can salvage a battleship or a cruiser. But the damage done to the ships was not as extensive as it could have been if the port was not as shallow as it was. So we won the campaign. Now let us see what this Japanese aircraft had for armament. So we had the A6M211, I think. Yeah, 220 millimeters, 7.7 millimeters. Neither were very good. Then we had the Ki-61 Otsukai, who had 220 millimeters and 212.7. Yeah, I thought it packed a little more punch than you would have expected. Then we have the Ki-100, the same story, 220 millimeters, 212.7 millimeters. Now for the American, we faced, where do we have them? Yeah. So the American aircraft involved was the P-61 C1, this one, the black Widow. Had 4 20mm cannons in the fuselage. I do have that, don't I? Oh, that's not what I wanted. It's what I chose, but not what I wanted. I have not unlocked anything. Yeah, probably because I don't have a crew. I can't preview them. So the 12.7 millimeters, as far as I remember, were on the top. The turret that I was talking about, yeah, it reads here, turret, 12.7 millimeter. And this turret only caused problems, and it was never really used. They used the 4 20mm cannons, which was more than enough to dispatch any aircraft they faced. So we had these put against us, and then we have the P-38G. Well, actually it was the XP late version, but it was none of them, so I don't know. This one is probably the closest. So as you can see, it's a twin engine. Do I have this one at least? No. I unlocked it but never assigned any crew to it, apparently. So yeah, she has a 20mm cannon and 4 12.7mm MGs in the nose, very central, and it was quite a good aircraft actually, more nimble than it looks, and I think it was one of the most produced in the US as well. Do I have it here somewhere? All over the place. No. Thought maybe I can show you the aircrafts, but apparently Interesting. Huh. Okay. Be it as it may, yeah. So this was Wake Island, Pacific War. I was not as interesting as I hoped it to be, but I hope it was still educational to some extent. And hope you enjoyed it, and see you next time. Bye.